Hi everyone, welcome to Lex Talk Design. This week we are speaking with Daniel Spat. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel Spat is a graphic UI and UX designer who began his career in design over 17 years ago on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. He then moved on to Brisbane, where he initially began working in print design before then expanding his skill set and moving into UI and UX design as well. Dan has worked for various companies and institutions, from commercial entities such as the Outdoor Furniture Specialists to government institutions such as the Queensland State Government and the Australian Federal Government. Currently, he's a senior designer and UI specialist with data and tech specialist Integral. Along with working design, Dan is also a committed and active member of the Design Institute of Australia, where he has served on the Queensland State Council as a branch councillor and chairperson. Welcome, Dan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Wow, what an intro. Appreciate that. Yeah, you got all that. Yeah, tick, tick, tick. Those are all the things that I've done, and there's plenty of depth. So look, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Renee.
Oh, my goodness. So a bit of background of how I know Dan is Dan and I kind of orbited each other at the same time on state councils with the DIA, Design Institute, around the same time, and it was during the lockdown years, the pandemic years. And so our paths cross really like throughout, meetings and that kind of things, and watching each other from afar, especially, via LinkedIn and things. And our design worlds in the Minnesota don't overlap a lot. But for me, I can certainly spot a passionate designer when I see one. And so I've always been watching your posts. And I remember you called me once. I was doing some work with the DIA on design graduate work, and you chivalrously called me, and you're very enthusiastic about kind of, the framework that we were talking about installing and things. And it was really heartening because I don't always everyone wants to be supportive in design, but sometimes we're so busy with our own backyards, no one takes the time to reach out. So it's a very 4-year overdue. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next generation, we're trying to uplift them, give them the skills that they need, or just give them some advice. A lot of people are just starting in their design careers and they just don't know where to hone their skills. And we give them the confidence we can. The DIA serves for students and professionals. So yeah, we did cross paths a little bit there, and I think we're on the education. We were doing education committee for a little while, and I mean, we engage with so many universities, and it's really nice to see the next gen coming through.
Yeah,
pass on. Yeah,
it's amazing. I just did a design port because I was in Melbourne and now we live in Sydney, so I went along and did was a part of the DIA NSW division folio night of reviewing the graduates' folios. And it was I forgot how much fun that was, especially to do it IRL, because we've done it on Zoom for such a long time. That was super cool. And just their youthfulness, I forget how old and gnarly I have become until I see their plucky enthusiasm.
You've got to match it. You've got to match that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You jump in there and you just, how's it going? Show us what you got. And you point everything out and you say, oh, look, I really think you can develop that skill, and when I was back in the day when I did this, I can see a little bit of what I've done with you, and I think you should really develop that. And it's very passionate when you do a portfolio review night in real life.
Yeah,
I don't think it really works as well online.
No, it's way harder to do, and it's way faster as well when you do, because we were reviewing folios, and so we start off with the big chats, whatever, and then you goes off into groups. And so I was working with 4 designers, and they were, I think, all from the Sydney Design School and interior design graduates, and they were just delightful. They were all from overseas, all international students, and they were all unfortunately really cognizant that a lot of their work was from overseas, plus they had their Australian uni work in their folio. And I was like, dude, you've got to be loud and proud. Quite the opposite is true. Some designers do find people who have worked overseas intimidating. Absolutely, I get that. But the faster you smoke out, that's not the people. Yeah. I said they're not your people. So I would, because you never know. You especially know this, that whoever you're interviewing for, you don't know if they've got some kind of pipeline directly to Argentina or Qatar, and that's going to be the most useful part on your folio is that. So
absolutely, because they're being their truest selves. and they're showing their nationality loud and proud on a page,
Yeah.
or the intimate knowledge of the culture, and that can really serve you in your career, I think.
Yeah.
Because that's a niche that no one else has, and play it up.
Speaking of, because you started your career, I think initially in you studied graphic design, and
Yes, I
now
did.
you've expanded way into UX and IT, multimedia design. Did you, obviously I doubt it, but did you see that this would be the path that you would take when you started out with your career?
I didn't expect it to be working so heavily in the web and digital space. I thought that I would be doing creative print design and graphic identity work for ages, forever. But I quickly pivoted after realizing that I needed more digital skills and I needed to sort of expand my knowledge. I started in this print-based graphic design world doing, display stands and posters and VM for shopping centers and packaging jobs for food companies. And then, you start going for a larger advertising agency, or you start working on a client side, and all of a sudden you find yourself developing these, oh, well, I can hold a camera pretty damn well. I know how to tweak the front end of a website, and you start to evolve these skills. You become the de facto, you're the web guy, you're the photography expert, you're the guy. So you just become this, I'm a yes person. So I always just say, yes, I've got the skills, I can do it, I can give it my best shot. And it just so happened that my best shot was better than all the other people's best shot. So I didn't expect to be doing it full time. I thought I'll just be the go-to guy forever. But now I find myself doing some pretty interesting, deep accessibility things in audits and government compliance, or some interesting corporate marketing strategies. So yeah, it's really cool. It's very great. I didn't see it at the beginning, but now I found myself.
No one did.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm old, and I remember when the internet started. I remember, the whole thing, and I remember, there's all tiny Apple computers and that kind of stuff, and no one saw ever. I don't think anyone. Well, I'm sure someone saw it, but that tech and marketing, that people are going to start debating if it should be a CMO or a CIO or whatever, because that integration is so integral, and that's what, we were just talking before the call about this is, so, I work in retail design, and retail, yes, as a space, of course it has changed, but at the same time it's thousands of years old. It's a merchant space where people have products or services and they sell them in real time, transactionary. Whereas what you're doing is you're working with this, you've got the physicality of life, you've got the humans, and then you've got tech, and being able to integrate all of those, is that just the world's hardest job?
It can be. I always say that my job is to manage customer expectations. You expect the digital product to work in a certain way. We go on the online world, and you've got a search engine and you get the result, and then you're expecting to find what you need on the homepage, or in the about section, or this section, or this section. There's all sorts of user experiences that we're used to. And these are what you said before in the retail environment. There's a real normality about the retail design. Well, there's a real normality about the digital space too.
Right.
Websites, you don't want to be searching forever on this. Some websites are very creative and out there, mostly boutique studios or architect firms or people that are very creative. They put their websites, and they're very interesting with their navigation, or eclectic. And you can get eclectic store as well. But, where is everything? And sometimes the excitement is trying to navigate it, but sometimes it can be frustrating too.
Oh my God,
So,
yeah. I just want to buy the umbrella. Please just let me buy it. Where is the cart? I just want to get on with my life. I want to give you money. Please let me spend online with you.
That's right. So as a digital user experience designer, you're trying to find the path of least resistance to get to where you need to be in the online space. So if it's the product shop to the cart to the checkout, and then you get the email to send you thanks for your purchase. You got to make that user journey seamless. It's the same thing in the physical world. It's just digital. It just needs to be directional wayfinding signage online.
Mm-hmm.
That's clever copywriting. That's clever hyperlinking and good user journey navigation. Think about all users. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so straightforward and easy, but is the trick, because so are you doing it like like with your work and or referring to with your work, like studies, like eye tracking studies, or are you studying like the history? Because, like once, typically menu is top right or top left. But, I know what you mean. We have these unconscious things that bang, bang, bang. Does this look legit? Are there typos? And you're thinking about this in a nanosecond. Where's the padlock? What do you refer to? Historical data, or are you looking at studies on how people are absorbing this?
You generally see the sort of client work I'm doing is typically corporate or in an industry with established norms already. So it might be a government client. Okay, government client websites need to look a certain way. They need to adhere to WCAG guidelines, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. That's the AA 2.1 standard or 2.2 standard. It means you need hover effects on your buttons, and you need your menus to be front and center and clear and easy navigatable by screen reading software. And you need it to have little devices like a little home icon with a name home underneath it, so that you're not just relying on what the icon is, because the icon could be ambiguous. You need to spell it out. So there are important norms that I follow. And sometimes, but if it's not a government client, it could be you're just following what makes sense. The path of least resistance is probably the best way to put it. You're trying to get people to purchase a product, find information, or interact with them, or contact us, or book an appointment. Where are those buttons going to generally sit? They're going to sit in your navigation, or they're going to sit in the top half of your site, or in the above the fold, that kind of thing. It's still traditional marketing in a way. It's that above the fold kind of stuff.
And realizing the priorities of the client as well, whether it's the client's the government or a private entity. But because that's maybe that's the rub of the designer, is there's the brief, then the brief behind the brief, and that's you've got to get to that brief.
Right. Yeah, you do. You have to, as I said before, manage client expectations. What do you want? You expect your bookings and appointments to be the focus of your site? Okay, then you're going to have multiple ways to get there. Or, yes, it's information architecture. It's a site map. It's how you've structured your sites or your digital content or whatever it may be, or your digital assets. Are they telling the right message? It's classic, brief and deliver. Yeah, you got to know what the client wants to begin with. It's not just, I need a website. What do you want it to do? Everyone wants a website, but how effective do you want it to be at X? And then let's get there.
Is that really fun? Because you've been in the industry for a long time, and so you know a lot of tips and tricks, and you've got a lot of expertise when you can trick something up, because it's not all designers are the same. And certainly when it comes to web design, we've spent fortunes before with agencies that it still makes me feel a bit nauseous, or we've hacked at it at some kind of WYSIWYG CMS kind of website software as well. That must be so satisfying when someone walks in and you can do like lead generation and or auto response, all of those fun, like when you automate stuff. Is that just like a gorgeous mic drop moment?
It's good when it works. It's good when you spend the time and do the automations and make sure that you've thought about every avenue, every scenario. If this, then that. If I click this button, then I'm going to get an email saying, thanks for joining. Then I'm going to click the button and say, okay, start my profile or whatever it is. And then you update your profile, and then you can start exploring the system. If you do all your automation things right, and you've thought about all the different types of interactions. So, for instance, I was just talking to a client the other day about she's creating a website on signing up to like a directory. Have you thought about the abandoned cart scenario where someone has gone to purchase, but they've gone and done the dishes, or they've gone to, the phone rang and like, oh, and then the computer shut down. So, by the way, send an email to them the next day. It's, oh, how'd you go with that? Because you didn't finish your purchase. You got to think about one of those scenarios where abandoned cart is real. You forgot the purchase. So important for as a business owner, as a client, you got to make sure that you're sealing that deal. Or it might be another case of auto renewal. Your subscription is expiring, and you don't just give them one hour's notice because their credit card might be expired or something. Your subscription is coming up next week or next month. Do you have the funds to auto renew your subscription?
Yes, oh God, I had this
Think
one
about
last
those
year.
emails and think about those digital experience as well. Have you thought about that in your subscription online product? I think it's important to recognize that those user journeys exist. And sometimes they're mundane, they're annoying, but you've really got to think about them to have a full-scale digital product. We take them for granted. But if you don't get that auto renewal email and the money just comes out of your account, God forbid, what's going on? I forgot about. Yeah, it's 12 months.
Yeah, that's well, this time last year, unfortunately, my credit card was hacked, and it's the same credit card account we'd had for 15 years. And it had like 3 a.m. I happened to be awake, and I got was this you? And it was a US charge, and it was foreign. I was like, no, this is not us. And so we tried to close the card. And then two things happened. One is they just sent out a new card that kept the account open. And then other debits were still coming out. And I was like, I thought I closed that. And they were like, no, just the numbers, the account stays the same. And that's when I found out about tokens, is when you have these subscriptions and they have more power over your account than you do. So, and then the credit card was paid off because the tokens, they can't just close it on the spot. They've got to wait till the next tokens. But I'm like, but then I'm just going to be keeping pay. This will go forever. And I don't know what these subscriptions are. I got rid of as many as I can. 15-year-old credit card, forgot. Like it would have, that account's got cobwebs on it. And I mean, the cards had melted several times. I would really like to say that. But then closing it all. But for the next 12 months to this day, because it's almost a year since it happened, I get automated emails saying, your subscription has fallen through. And I'm like, yeah, it has. Because I have license up, and my big advice is every 5 years, shut hard that credit card. And reset, because those tokens, it's off newspaper publications, yoga apps that you'd forgotten about, all this kind of stuff. And so, I've been getting these, and I mean, thankfully, it's a victimless crime with me yelling at my computer. One, the client, the provider can't hear. Two, it's an automated message that makes me smirk with smugness. I'm like, not this time, Tootsie.
It's important to think about that kind of stuff. Well, that's a digital product scenario that you understand, and you solved it. You know how to get around it. Some clients don't think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what? And do you think there are some clients, how like with retail, there are some retailers that look shabby chic, so it feels like you're getting a bargain, same prices wherever you go, but that's how, it's on purpose. And do you think there are companies, the reason I say it's a loaded question, is one of the companies I have a subscription to is it's like Vogue, Vanity Fair, through UK Condé Nast. And you can't log in for love nor money. Nothing works. I cannot stop this subscription, but I moved interstate. And I thought, well, I'll be damned if the people that bought our house is going to get my, if I'm stuck with this goddamn subscription, I should be getting it. So I write to them, same email address I've been writing to complain to, like, can you please cancel this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, we've got no idea what you're talking about. And then I write and say, can you please change my address where this is delivered to? Bang, instantaneously fixed, magical. And I was like, I think I smell a rat.
Yeah. They want to keep you there. They want to keep you on the platform.
It's a bit cheeky, because you must get to websites, you especially know what you're doing, and you must get to websites and you feel like this cannot be your actual website.
Tell me how hard it is to unsubscribe from something. I've tried to unsubscribe from, I hope they're not listening, but Amazon.
Oh,
Amazon
my God. That's enough to put you in a straitjacket. Amazon own everything, it turns out.
So Amazon Prime, because I was, I like their video platform, and that's great, but I didn't need it after a while. And I stopped using it and tried to cancel, and the user experience was pretty damn hard. It was just not straightforward to unsubscribe, change my credit card, or just cancel my account altogether. So that was an unpleasant offboarding experience, and that offboarding experience is just as important as you're onboarding, because if you offboard someone gently and it's easy to do it, then it'll be open for the next time that you do have to reactivate. And then you haven't ruined your reputation as well. Like, oh, it was actually pretty easy. I'll just reactivate it later on because the button's right there, front and center. I can reactivate it whenever I like. But now I don't feel like I want to ever reactivate because it was a pain. It was a pain in my side. So,
well, of course, because they've got Audible and Kindle as well as Amazon, and then there's Prime. Between the four of them, yeah, because I've been down the same path. We have like a family account, so it's not dissimilar to Adobe. Adobe is a living nightmare to navigate when it comes to accounts, and I hope they are listening. Give me a call, Mr. Adobe. I'm always available for you.
Wonderful. Pleasant onboarding and offboarding experience. That's what we want. We just want, it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. Be kind to your customers, whether they're new, old, or leaving or coming or going. It will leave a sour taste in your mouth otherwise.
Yeah, because like I was saying, some websites, they want to sell to you, but they just make it so difficult. And I think, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, like it is with good intentions, but I certainly just notice when it is seamless, it's a delightful experience.
Yes, you're right. And I'm actually a real big fan of your retail design. I still love bricks and mortar shopping.
It's if nothing else, it's the sweet dopamine. It's also oxytocin as well, because it's a sense of community, and then you have serotonin gets involved, and if it's a really big shopping centre, endorphins, because you do a bit of cardio.
That's really interesting. The science of shopping. Tell me about it. Yeah.
And it is a whole thing. It's the more we delve into it, we do a lot of strategy work now with our clients on humanity, tactility, kinetic, and cerebral, like receptors in the brain and neurotransmitters and that kind of thing. And just because it's the science is the science, and it just is what it is. And in a joyous way, like, 7-Eleven, I only need to show you like a white tile, a fluoro light, and a bit of orange, green, and red, and exactly, it's 7-Eleven, and you know how it feels in the store. Like, you know where the sui min is stored, like where those 2-minute noodles are, and it's the same globally.
Yeah. And I know that I'm in 20 meters of a Lush store because I can smell the soap wafting, and it's always that smell. And it's just, I know that I'm near a store that sells soap. It's that, what does that come under? Sensory.
Sensory, absolutely sensory. And I just recently did a piece on sense of smell and scent in retail marketing. Yes. And because scent is, I could get this wrong, but scent is they call it the most primitive sense, but it's not that it's the oldest sense, because obviously touch, when you're two cells, you've got fast growing skin, so touch is the first one. But olfactory senses are primitive in the sense that they're least developed, so they're most primal, and that's why things can cinch you back. Whereas eyes, of course, are super highly developed. Otherwise, you'd be having flashbacks every time you opened your eyes. But that sense of scent is, I know, especially like, back in the day and in Australia when we had less retail here, like, Morello cherry lip balm from the Body Shop, it just takes back. Oh, and that Johnson & Johnson baby pink baby lotion. If pink had a smell, it's that baby lotion.
It would be that.
Oh, yeah. Just saying, I can smell that pinky, dusty, talcum powdery smell.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I walk into a chemist and I feel and smell this sort of Dettol kind of amber, kind of sweet antiseptic kind of smell. I'm like, I know I'm in a chemist.
Yep, jelly beans.
There's no doubt about it.
At 12 o'clock.
Jelly beans. Yeah. No doubt, I am where I am because, and I think it's important to sort of try and correlate that with the digital experience as well. Something that feels familiar. Well, like we were talking about before with navigation, I know where I am. I know where I need to go because everything looks a certain way, and I'm definitely on a shop website or I'm definitely on a news website. It just feels like this is expected. The UI is kind of like it's on trend. It's actually it's not even on trend. It's just normalized. It's been homogenized to the point where I know exactly where I am and how to shop on this digital experience because it's just learned. Might not be through the scent, but it'll be through my eyes. I can track across the site. That's why we skim read sometimes on websites. It's just like, okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, get to the meat and potatoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
And
you've got to
then now
have that filler too, because you're like, hang on, why is there nothing about us? Why is there no about us tab? What are you hiding?
Yeah. Sometimes I just go straight to the contact page if I want to know where the company is, or straight to the about section. I don't even go searching for it. I just go straight to the bottom in the footer, because the footer should tell me exactly who they are, what they are, or click on their LinkedIn or click on their Instagram, because that's all I want to know.
Yeah.
I know exactly to go to the footer. It's in the footer. It's always in the footer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And there's also something else. I use it on Safari. It's like a right click and it's like show data. And then it does that where it like shows you everything that's in the code for the background of the page. Because I'm, an amateur sleuth. So I just live for that stuff. Those like catfishing shows and stuff. I'm like, dude, you could give me 20 minutes. I could have this down. It's the same thing. I'm not techie overly, but I am. It's about reading stuff. And if everything's too generic or too generalized, I'm smelling rats. If I can't get to contact us and there's no location, if there's a lot of hazy we, I'm like, oh, we this and we that. And I'm like, who is this we?
Yeah, exactly. Let's do a find and a search in the code and find it.
Yes.
Sleuth. Investigate.
Yes. Total sleuth.
Where did they get that picture from?
Yeah, exactly. I see you, Shutterstock.
Yeah, I think we all do it. It's a path of least resistance.
It's totally joyous. I mean, whether we do a lot of presentation decks and stuff, and you need that stock imagery to tell that story because you want to use, in my opinion, as least words as possible. But at the same time, eventually you're like, hang on, I'm not Herb Ritz, like I'm not Annie Leibovitz. I'm not selling photography here. Like I just need something that, monkey see, monkey do. But yeah, I kind of love like the whole stock library thing. I know it gets a bad rap, but if you dig a sniff deeper, it's not so bad.
It can be. It can be really helpful to tell what you need to do very quickly. We understand complex ideas a lot quicker if we just see a picture of it or a visual metaphor that replaces a paragraph. So I'm trying to do that at the moment with with a piece of work, and that is to distill ideas into visual metaphors for title pages. Like you get that this is a strategic data governance picture because it looks like data. It looks like streams of code and streams of data or blocks of databases on a shelf or something like that. You look for visual metaphors to try and tell a story very quickly. And sometimes stock libraries do that.
But that's your craft, isn't it? Don't you think as a graphic designer, back to your foundation, it's really viscoms and it's how can I be the conduit between the piece of content and the person's brain?
Yes.
You're an interpreter.
Indeed. And you try and distill complex ideas into simple illustrations or photos. Like I'm doing some easy read fact sheets for a government client, and I need to create simple graphics that have two people and they're talking or they're complaining or they're on the phone to one another, and you just need to get quite a lot of information into a little round circle picture. And that could be, you've got to consider diversity, you've got to consider color, rounded edges, and you've simple vector graphics, just to convey one idea, deep undertones of a scenario. So a complaints line, how do we handle complaints in a tiny little picture? Well, it's two people on a phone. One has got like a little voice bubble and they're trying to argue and this sort of shocked feeling. How do you convey that in such a short amount of time? That's kind of the sort of thing that I'm working on at the moment.
Oh, that's totally my jam. Because as you're talking, I'm like, we need the one with the eyebrows that do this, like pointing down, and or the phone with a lightning bolt, but then that could be electrical failure. So it's the same. I know, and it's almost like being a shapeshifter, like a chameleon. And like I assume it's the same for you, just out watching how are people absorbing this, how are they working around it, because we're all, we can't be conscious on everything all the time, so we're unconsciously reading signals. When you can sense someone unhinged is walking down the street towards you and you just get a feeling. And, if you were, that's why I love about traveling, because you can't read the street, not that you want to be in any kind of danger, but you don't know who you're walking past because you don't read the same cultural cues. Whereas here, if somebody might be, maybe shirtless and maybe singing at a very unusual hour at 3 a.m. in the street, you'd be like, yeah, I might just cross the road. Like there's these cultural cues and stuff. I think that's kind of the most fun thing about being a designer. Like, do you find that as well as the people watching?
The cultural cues, yeah, I think it's important to recognize that there are different walks of life and all the different people that might be interacting with your product. And that's good user experience. You're thinking about, well, I've got people that might be of a certain age or of a, young or old or indifferent or of a certain persuasion or whatever it may be, cultural background. But the language needs to be simple to capture all of those people. So you need to make sure that it is of a certain reading level. So we put our copywriting through a app like Hemingway, so that it's of a certain reading grade. So, yeah, okay, so tick. There's the language is understandable. Then the visuals need to be of a certain diversity or it needs to convey a certain message very, very quickly. And are they large enough? Is the type big enough? Is it to cater for people with different reading abilities with magnification, that kind of thing. So typography and balance and space and layout. Like, just good design is catering for, what did I hear recently? It's if you design for the youngest person and the oldest person, you'll capture everyone in between. And you're designing for everybody within that whole age range spectrum. Or if it's a cultural spectrum, you design for extremes and then you capture everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. And you mentioned Hemingway, and I wanted to talk to you about AI, because I know that you've got experience working directly and indirectly with AI in a commercial environment. How's your experience with it today? Good, bad, or ugly?
I've found it very, very helpful for ideation. So in a creative sense, it's very helpful for ideation, coming up with ideas or different, you might do a sketch on a page and you might do a mind map to come up with your ideas, and you might need something to sort of quickly visualize one of those outlier ideas and validate it. That's probably two good things: ideation and validation. Is this creative concept going to work or give me a good sense of we're on the right track? And it validates that, okay, I reckon there's something in that. Let's explore it further and deeper and polish it. So the good is that, but the bad could be it might lead you down a garden path of false sense of security. Like, it could be off brief without any context. If you don't feed it enough of the full creative brief or the nuance in the client work that you're after, and you don't give it the cultural cues, or you don't give it the, I want this to be catering for a certain audience, it might completely miss that. And you're like, ooh, that looks great, but hang on a minute, I'm wasting my time. This is so off brief, it's unbelievable. So the bad is you're wasting time, or it's just giving you something that's going to take longer to polish, and you're going to waste your time polishing a turd where you could have just done it and done it with pen and paper and just rendered it from your sketches or your drawings or your illustrations, doing it manually. AI, there's this term that's floating around a lot, which is AI slop. Have you heard it?
I have. I've forgotten about just the fact that slop has come back. Slop never left. Like,
I love that. I think
slop.
it's a brilliant way to say so much.
Oh.
And I feel like, okay, let's for those that are uninitiated, AI slop is the work that is churned out without a soul, and it feels very plastic or too polished and too rendered. It's too CGI'd, so that it's like it's like, they create Godzilla and then Godzilla 4 and then Godzilla 5, and like, okay, this is getting a bit tired. It looks nothing like it really should. It's just so CGI'd. It's just slop. Like,
Lion King 2.0.
Yeah,
we were happy with
like,
the 1.0.
We were absolutely happy with the original because it was authentic and handcrafted, and it just lacks a soul sometimes. AI slop.
Yes, that's I have a really AI. I know it's complicated. because I just find myself like an old person yelling at the TV a lot about it. Because, like, so to me, and this is just my theory, I really haven't spoken to a lot of people about really anyone about it, but in my experience with AI, is AI, like you said, an ideation tool and or a part of the process? 100%. It's Photoshop 2.0. And then when I say Photoshop 2.0, I was born, I grew up in the 90s, so we got had by Photoshop. Women's magazines told us this is what women should look like, and we didn't even know about Photoshop. And a lot of eating disorder, like in a really heavy tone, a lot of eating disorders, a lot of women died, and a lot of self-loathing came about because of Photoshop. And so you're not going to catch me twice at that. Thank you very much. So when you're flicking through YouTube or whatever on Shorts and comes up with the AI things, I'm like, dude, I've seen the show reel. Like wow, the dude looks like jelly. So that bit, I'm like, what kind of, how stoned are other people watching YouTube? And no judgment whatsoever. And I'm like, how could anyone find that entertaining? And that's, I think when it's AI as a generation tool, like a ideation generation tool, I get it. But when I think people try and peddle AI as a commercial product and or end result, I'm like, dude, if you can be bothered, I can't be bothered. Like, if you can't be bothered writing your emails, I don't want to read a machine. I can barely read a human's email, like my attention span's the size of a gnat. I'm like, if a machine wrote it, I'm like, I don't want your dynamic words, bro.
And that's the thing. The resistance often comes from this lack of authenticity.
And it can't be, because it's just code. It's people keep thinking it's I. I'm like, it's AI. AI. It's not I, it's AI. And and it has to be like of authenticity, because the machine, of course, it wants to do the best it can, but it's still a commercial product. It's just selling its wares. I find it odd now people are referring to it like it's a thing. Like, I was having a chat with ChatGPT. I'm like, yeah, but that's the same as talking to Olive on the Woolworths app, the bot that helps. Like, okay.
It's a robot.
Yeah, it's a little bit freaking me out.
It's trained on a whole host of people that, like, it's constantly in training. And it's training itself on human responses. It's been written to identify language in a certain way, and I won't get into how it's made, because there's a lot of clever people out there that can explain it better than I can. But it is constantly being trained on whatever we feed it, and it picks up on it, and it learns from it, and it learns that this is a good response for this answer, this prompt. This answer is good for that prompt. Yeah, exactly. It's all data.
Yeah,
it's all data.
Super interesting. But this is what I think is interesting. Like, if the coder has never heard of Amharic as a language, and someone wants to use AI to not just generate something in Amharic, but a cultural reference to Amharic, the code can never do it. If it hasn't been coded to eat, like, it might be able to try and research and find a cross-reference, and that's all data, but you don't know what you don't know. And so it's through the reason I say this is, bizarrely, I was listening to a Real Housewives podcast, and they used AI to do roasts of each other. And the roasts were so pointed at the women's looks. Like, it assumed the women were vain, and it assumed that insulting their looks would be upsetting to them. And all that told me was about the coder who wrote the code. It was so lensed. It was so interesting. Like, that fascinates me.
It's biased in a way. So it's biased because there is a stereotypical algorithm which dictates, okay, well, that seems to be 90% of the sort of responses that you get from someone who expects a roast answer response. So, of course, it's the lowest hanging fruit, so it spits that out. Okay, all right, it's an interesting scenario there, but you're right. It's trained on its bias. It's the most logical response for a generic question.
And the most common, isn't it? Because it's common with the internet. So you also have to look at the demographic of where it's getting its data from. And so then, and bless the internet as well. It's, in its desire to inhale us, it's feeding us back the bathwater at the same time. And, like, we're all sipping from the same bathwater, and it's going around and around and around. And you almost want to do a prank against it, except then now I'm thinking AI is I. So I'm like, AI doesn't give a shit if I prank it.
Yeah. There's some deeper knowledge, there's some deeper context that we're not sort of talking about, and that is the artistic intellectual property of those that upload their work to the internet and expect artificial intelligence to not train from it.
I know,
and,
right?
Like, you only just need to look at First Nations illustrators, First Nations artists, and photographers and styles, and, you know, people with a unique illustrative set and aesthetic. And it copies them.
Your choice.
It trains it on.
You are choice.
And exactly. There's a real regulatory answer to that should and is kind of happening around authentic intellectual property of creative work and Creative Commons. And we'll see more of that very, very soon. Ooh, if we haven't already.
That is exciting.
It's important.
Because that's the thing as well. Like, you know, this has been happening for a long time pre this level of AI, but to me, once you put it on the internet, you're in all sorts. Like, it's bye work, bye. And, you know, ideally it's paid for work, but, you know, it's sad, but we've kind of culturally, we're moving on from that. But then with AI, it's this next level of obviously anything that goes into AI, it owns. I assume that's a part of the deal with the devil. And once you start putting in, because we have, you know, peers, we have clients who put concept work into AI to regenerate, they want to see it a different way or whatever. I'm like, that's cool, but you know, you're letting your own cat out of your own bag, because that's because the AI, of course, then own that. And so when the competition comes in and says, make me something that looks like yada yada yada, AI's got that concept.
Yes. So they're trained on styles. They're trained on whatever you feed it. Now, there are ways to stop that, and it's permissions based. So something like Microsoft has Copilot, and you can ask, all of the big major ones, like, you know, ChatGPT and Google and Microsoft. We use Microsoft Copilot at work, and we've asked it to, as a rule, to not train certain amounts of certain data that we give it. So you can adjust the settings in certain ways, and there are ways to stop it from training or distributing the data to the larger language model set to stop it from training it. Keep it private, so like closed off. And so it'll refer to the work that you upload, but only to you, because you're the account holder. You own the data.
Right. That's interesting. So I didn't know that.
It can be trained on the instructions and the work that you upload. That's just responsible. You know, there are settings out there that exist that you can change. Not all tech companies do that, but those that are larger and established and have a conscious mind, they are doing it. And I think that's really important that it is moderated and reviewed, what you're giving it and what it's being trained on.
Oh, that should be on my phone, because, you know, when you text arguing with your partner and then it's starting, you know, it's because it's doing predictive text. And I'm like, don't try and guess my insults. Like, and don't try and course correct. I think I mean fuck. Like, it's all the same. But it knows, and not that anyone could be bothered doing this, but surely someone like Apple or Microsoft must be seconds away from sending me like a heads up. Typically, December the 5th at 5 p.m. is when you have an argument with Chris. So historically, there's a rage text or whatever coming, like something like that, because it has all our data. It must know, because now it's learning, like, you know, there's AI emotion, like emotional reading. Yes. That's what I find that interesting as well. Like, that must be being written for that.
I mean, it's trained on what you give it. The more you give it, the more you'll get out of it. It'll and you can ask it to expand on an idea. It could be one sentence, and you're just like, well, expand this into several paragraphs. Write me an essay on a Friday afternoon argument, and it will.
Yeah.
And it might be just like one sentence, and it'll create this whole long list of out of context storyline, and it will just churn out a story if you ask it to. You know, it might need, you know, what's the story about? And it's like,
well, here's access to my emails.
Yeah. That's right. But yeah, it'll churn out something. Its job is to churn out something of what you ask it. You might give it one sentence and it'll give you 1,000 if you ask it to, but it might be out of context, or it might have no meaning. And that's what they say, hallucinating. It's coming up with its own response.
That's what I call sipping on its own bathwater. It's just, you know, sitting in it, sipping it. an old colleague of mine, I caught up with him last Christmas, and they were putting their agency. They were putting concept work into AI to generate ideas of different ways the design direction could go. And they put the story in, and then they requested coral accents. So in our
Okay.
world, it's like a peachy apricot, accent piece. Maybe it was a turquoise store, peach and coral and aqua go well together.
Nice.
Generated an image with just little pieces of coral from the sea all over.
Yeah.
And that's like, you don't know what you don't know. Like the coder obviously doesn't think in terms of color, but of course we're already down the path of, well, it's a render, it's an interior design piece. Like, of course it's about color, but instead it's, and that's what I find funny is like, because you think in your path, and then people, other people, it either aligns with what you're thinking or it jags. And I find that super interesting. Like, that's why I want to know, like, I would like to meet the coders. I want to know, like, their age, where they grew up, their life stage, like, let's have a coffee.
If you want to meet them, they'll just be a piece of code. There'll be a big, long algorithm. There's no one to meet.
I just love, well, someone has to have written the code.
It's like
That's
talking
what
to
I
the
need
Matrix.
to know. Exactly.
It's like a big matrix. And so, it's trained on...
I just call them Y fronts. It's usually Y fronts in a polar fleece. It's kind of that. That's the picture I pick. Also, and in my defense, though, because we have to use mannequins, in our renders and stuff. And there's about 3 guys in the world that make mannequins in 3D, and they all have the same taste in women. And they all enjoy the same provocative stance a woman has.
Is that where the eyes are like a little bit too far apart?
Oh, that too, yes.
They're out here instead of like here?
Yes, they're obviously like a mermaid kind of fish lady.
With the eyes are always really far apart.
Prey to predator, preys around the side. And they usually have a bit of a provocative stance. It's a whole thing. But and I just picture these 3 guys in their Y fronts with the polar fleece, and they've got a certain look. And that's the mannequins. I mean, it's changing a little bit now. That's just a commercial thing, but it just kind of makes me laugh. Who's behind, like who's writing it, and their demographics and their lens. I think it's so fascinating.
From what I understand, it's a code that's been validated many, many times from many, many users, and but it had to originate from somewhere, though, didn't it?
Right on. It didn't grow on a tree. Originate. Someone had to write it with a something. And not because the learning code also has to be written as well, like how and what it verifies cross references. What does it
references?
Think of as real?
It's referencing coral from Wikipedia. The definition of coral is it's a undersea creature and it grows and it's coral. It's clearly coral, but it has zero idea of the context because it didn't feed it the context. The context is we're a bloody interior design studio. We're talking about color palettes here. Why don't you give me the color? Well, we didn't feed it the prompt to say, hey, by the way, it's a color. It's hex code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We forgot to give it the prompt that was saying the context is we're talking about color schemes, not underwater sea creatures.
Yes, and that's because AI replicates back and forth. And so, because if you didn't, because there's 1,000 minutiae versions of that happening, because the coral came all over, the rendering, that's obviously they realize something's gone wrong. But, if you're colorblind and you asked for coral and instead it did peach and you didn't know any different, onwards you go and no one's any the wiser for it. And it's okay, it's not like live or die stuff, but it's just interesting because we don't have that communication loop back of, do you know what I mean? Which I don't know if that's a universal term or just Australian, but do you know what I mean? And that's, are you with me? Are we on the same page going together? And I think that's fascinating.
You can ask it to validate each step as you go along. And I mean, then you're starting to go down the path of you're asking the robot to really work with you and you're double handling it, really. You're asking it to do more. Yeah. And so you're trying to feed it too much context, whereas you already know the context. So what are you really asking it for?
Yes, it's a really good point as well. Yeah, I think, it's a great boredom tool as well. It's so fun. Like, I've used it for our private, like our personal residential projects, and it's just a hoot because God knows you don't want to be rendering your own house. Like we can, but, it's so much easier. So I totally get you with the ideation. It's amazing.
It is. And I think it's only going to get better. I'm a bit of an optimist.
You are. I can feel it in your soul.
Yeah.
You have a sunny disposition.
I do. I think it's important to recognise that it's got the power to do good in the world, and nasty people will always do nasty things. And in the physical and digital space, and it's always going to be there. But I think it's important to focus on what good it can do in the world. And I think it's already doing really good things in healthcare, and it's doing good things in education, for good, bad, and otherwise. Like, it can do bad. We're adapting with technology very, very quickly, faster than ever. And I think let's try and embrace how good it can really do.
Yeah, I think
Just
that's
like
a
the
good point.
advent of the computer itself has just amplified and has changed the trajectory of how we work, and this will be no different. It's just use it, just sink or swim.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because the bit I'm talking about with AI is, I don't know, 0.1% of the wedge. Like, it's teeny, teeny, tiny, but there's so much positive stuff, especially around bureaucracy, admin, and I assume data, not just data harvesting, but maybe data interpretation as well.
Yes, yeah, it is context and deep research. You're going to create a newsworthy article about something, and you feed it enough, and it will do that. And you want to learn the ins and outs of how to create a sophisticated guidebook on circular economy design with a certain product in mind, and you want the step-by-step guidance on how to do it for the Australian market, and it will do that for you. Like, it would take you hours and hours and hours to come up with this yourself. This sort of frame, like I did it for a product that I'm interested in creating. I want it to be circular and sustainable, and I want it to be created out of this, and I want it to fit into the Australian market, and all this sort of consider the regulatory market and environment and commercialization, all these kind of parameters that I gave it. And I said, okay, go, spit out a framework for me, and how do I do it? Bam, it's done it. It's like, would you like anything else?
Really? That's amazing.
It will definitely ask you, and then it'll ask you follow-up questions. Oh, would you want to explore that deeper? Do you want to, what's the next step? Would you like me to create this for you? Would you create this for you? It's addictive in a way. It's actually designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
Much like social media. It's designed to keep you using the product, so you're feeding it more information and data, and it's very keeping you in its system. Don't log off, for God's sake. Whatever you do, don't stop using it. Yeah, it is very needy.
And bless it. That's what I'm saying. You're sipping its own, like the homogeny and sipping its own bathwater is. And also because YouTube and Instagram get really desperate when you're watching reels, and 5 minutes it goes from puppy dogs and pussycats, kittens, and then all of a sudden it must sense that I'm there, maybe I've got 20 reels in me and then I'm going to log off. It just starts to get more drastic, and then it starts to come to fathers disciplining their children, which is code for smacking them, or horrendous stories of women being pimped out for drugs. I'm like Jesus, what the?
Yeah, we went from one extreme to the other,
and I'm like,
really amplified it. Yeah,
I'll be back tomorrow. Like, it's okay, you're going to be all right. You take the night off. It's like, stay with me. Don't you want to go?
Please don't log off.
Yeah.
We'll get to that point one day. I reckon they'll get to that one point, and it'll just start feeding you content that is more and more heartfelt, or plucking at those emotions, really trying to keep you on there. Please don't leave. We create a big goodbye song and a goodbye post, but please don't leave me.
I can just see it with big giant eyes and big tears.
Spilling over. Like the little cat in Shrek.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Puss in Boots. The other topic, so we've covered, your career and AI, so I'm so grateful. You've shared a lot of nuggets, but then just spanning bigger than with the Australian design industry and your area, your field of expertise. Is there anything that you're finding Australia in that industry is doing really well?
We are starting to get a lot more organised as an industry. So as a design profession, I feel like we're starting to become a lot more organised in how we articulate ourselves and how we become heard on a scale of, like, we are the design industry and we are experts in what we do. Here's the evidence to back it up. So I think we're starting to organise ourselves in a way. So the DIA is very good at what it does in bringing professional designers together. And there are others, Design Council and AGDA and interior designers. We have organisations, and we are trying to be heard as a professional body, and I think we're doing that very well and starting to get better at it. Also, I feel like the design industry has a better understanding of the environment that we're in. So we're taking more responsibility on sustainability, I find, which I think is brilliant. So there's the things like the Design Declares movement that is happening at the moment. Design Declares is starting to gain traction in tertiary institutes as well as studios. People are starting to sign up as a collective conscience on our climate, doing design decisions based on impacts and all that kind of stuff. Social issues as well. I think we're getting better at amplifying niche cases of injustice, and we're getting better at communicating ideas. So, it could be from, recycling, or it could be crime, or issues to do with diversity, issues to do with sexuality. I think designers are very good at creating campaigns around that kind of stuff to be engaging and compelling. I think we're doing good work there.
Nice. Yeah. And then on the other end of the scale, is there anything in the industry that you think needs a bit more development?
I think that we could be doing more work in having like a national design guideline, like policy, something that is seen as like a national standard or like accreditation, that designers are accredited in a certain way under certain guidelines. So builders and architects have this. I think designers could have that as well. Designers should have some sort of accreditation program that is seen as to be of a certain standard. And that could be just certified. Builders have a responsibility to keep their master builder's ticket, and workers in the health sector need to have theirs. Like, we all studied as designers. Many of us studied as designers. I'm not saying all of us, but many of us studied design, and we have certain knowledge that is not always seen, and it passes a certain level of professionalism that should be found as these guys are experts in what they do, and we should be treated as such. So I think we could be doing more with policy and accreditation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I know you're a great member of the GIA, really committed. The GIA is better for having you as a member. So it sounds like, because I know the GIA are working a lot in that sphere as well. So it sounds like that's something that's really synergistic with what your vision is as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I want to give back a little bit. I like to pass on knowledge, pass on passion, and just sort of build it, leave it better than when I started. And that's just being a little bit righteous and a bit altruistic here. It's important to sort of leave it better than when you started. And I think that's just sort of the sort of career path and mindset that I've always started with. It's just get better, grow yourself and your career, and then try and pass on knowledge. And I'm always going to be happy to be a DIA member, because I can see the good that it's doing, and small steps, but it's doing really good work. And I found my tribe there, and we've met now digitally, but hopefully in the future. Yeah, I've met some amazing designers and amazing design educators and design managers and professionals that I would never have done without the DIA. I love talking shop. I love talking about what we do and who we are, and as a collective, So I'll be a member for a long time.
Oh, that is glorious, and I think that is the most perfect note to wrap up on, because I think that sums up exactly your position in your career and the legacy that you're leaving behind. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us. It was so delightful. Thank you so much for your time, Dan.
So welcome. Thanks so much, Renee.